go ahead and get started. This is the regularly scheduled Utility Service Board meeting. It is Monday, May 23rd. And we'll get called to order here. First order of business is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any questions on the minutes? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next up, we have approval of the claims. We have 5 different sets of claims. First up, the standard invoices. Excuse me while I give you the total. Totaling $426,303.36. Are there any questions about the claims tonight?
I have a question.
Please.
On page 1, the security at the gate security at the Dillman plant, I know that that's another item later on in our agenda. I was wondering what that is about. And then also, the first one is, there's a weekend date in between it, the 23rd and 24th, that would not be covered. And then each one is a 2-week time chunk. So I was wondering if the 11th through the 22nd, did that just exclude like the Saturday, Sunday, and then the same with the 25th through the 6th? Is this just a 5-day-a-week security? Is it all weekend, all week? And I don't know if that's information we have right now.
I can take this.
Okay, thank you.
The issue here is that we have no way of automatically opening and closing the gate at the Dillman plant. We are trying to improve security at the plant by having a security guard there to watch when vehicles enter the plant facility through the open gate. The gate is open during the day, Monday through Friday, because there's construction going on there, and also so that septic haulers can get into the plant. So the only time that they're actually there is Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., except of course holidays. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Kurt?
Is this a temporary situation, or are we planning to automate that gate somehow?
We're in the process of getting quotes for the automation of the gate and for the automation of collecting the septic haulers tickets. So we're in the process of putting all of that together. But in the meantime, we want to make sure we have security at that gate.
Okay.
And what stimulated this was nearly every week we receive notices from Homeland Security and from American Water Works Association talking about threats against American water and wastewater plants owing to the international situation.
Other questions on the claims? Yes, Amanda.
I have a question on page 6. We had an insurance claim due to an accident involving an individual. Number 1, just want to make sure everything was okay. And number 2, if there's anything that we can understand what happened.
I actually am not sure what happened with that. Latrina and I saw that this morning. The only information I have is what's on the claim, and it really doesn't give me a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, nothing that prevents me from voting for this, but was just curious, just again, to making sure that number 1, our employee, and that there were no individuals injured, and if there was what the nature of the accident was, and if it's something that we have to be concerned about safety-wise.
I know I can check with Cindy. I think she's probably got more information through risk management.
Great.
So maybe following up with an email with a paragraph or something.
Sure.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Other questions on the claims? All right, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next up, we have utility bills. Utility bills totaling, excuse me, $34,187.08. Any questions on the utility bills? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next up, wire transfers totaling $376,981.16. Any questions on the wire transfers today? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And then customer refunds totaling $584.52, all in wastewater. Any questions on the customer refunds? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then a special check run totaling $3,726.77. Any questions on the special check run? Motion for approval, please.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next up is approval of consent agenda totaling $34,880. Vic Kelson. You're muted.
Out of practice at this.
Thank you.
I'm happy to bring tonight's consent agenda. As you said, it totals $34,880. The first is item A to Azteca Systems Holdings for $10,400. This is makes the new not to exceed $138,400. This is the third amendment for additional on-site training. And then the second item is to Bruce Wild Security LLC. This is $24,480 monitoring incoming traffic at Dillman, as we spoke about a moment ago. Would any of the board members like to consider any of these items individually? Hearing none, if
Yes,
there's
we
no
would. I'm sorry, Vic. We would like to talk a little bit more about the Bruce Wild Security item, please.
So Vic, how long does this contract run for?
I'm going to have to defer to Chris Wheeler on that. Chris, can you comment?
Yeah. First of all, I think I don't remember the last time we pulled an item off of the consent agenda, but don't we go ahead and finish the consent agenda
Yes,
and move
that's-
Bruce Wilds down into the lineup and discuss it as a separate item at this point?
I think that's correct.
Yeah, I think that's.
So,
Yeah.
okay, we will remove that from the consent agenda and take it up as the next item. If there's no opposition to the remaining item on the consent agenda, it will be approved as recommended by staff. Hearing no opposition, the remaining item is approved, and we'll move on to the Bruce Wild security question.
Thank you.
And you guys moved so quickly that I'm still trying to pull up that contract. Hold on just a second. I've almost got it now. This contract is scheduled, hold on, I scrolled down too far, but the contract is set to expire in September of this year.
Yes, but do we know the duration that the 24,480 covers? Is it a month, 2 months?
It's just, oh, you want to know how long they're actually going to be out there doing the gate work.
It looks like if it's $4,000 for every 2 weeks, maybe that would be,
This is
what, then
12
3
weeks.
months? Yeah, 12 weeks?
12 weeks at the same rate of the invoice that was approved.
Okay.
And then presumably, if we get the gate security automated system put in place prior to that, then we'd not have to do the full amount.
That's
Since
correct.
it's not to exceed. Thank you.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, any other questions about the Bruce Wild security contract? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, next up, we have request for approval of an agreement with Schmidt Associates, Inc. for a new ventilation system in the chemical building at Dillman, not to exceed $32,485. Dan Hudson, please.
For the record, I'm Dan Hudson, the Capital Projects Manager for the City of Bloomington Utilities. The chemical building at the Dillman wastewater treatment plant is in dire need of improved ventilation. When we fill up the chemicals in the tanks, these are large tanks, the operators cannot be in the building because the chemical smell is so strong. That includes sodium hypochloride, and the worst is sodium bisulfate is the really bad chemical. So we asked Smith to give us a proposal to design to improve the ventilation and also bid and construction management of the project. That would be for $32,485. I'm here to answer any questions, if you have any questions on the project. Yep.
Please.
So, understanding that this is going to take a little bit of time to get all of this worked out, what provisions are we taking with our staff to keep them healthy and to make sure that there aren't any extenuating injuries or illnesses that might come of this?
Unfortunately, there's not a lot that we do except open the doors and turn on the fans, manually, and just don't have the operator stay in there very long while we do it, which is not a good solution.
No.
But we'd like to get it done before the end of the year, possibly, yeah.
And is this something that has just recently come up, or, have the chemical levels increased? What has changed that's made this happen, or has it been something that's been going on for a long time and we haven't addressed it?
I really don't know how long it's been going on, but I have had complaints for 6 months on the issue. And we have looking at a lot of different ways to solve the problem until we finally said, okay, let's just get a designer to design something.
Sure.
And so that's where we're at this point, yeah.
Okay. But our employees are okay? They're,
So far, they're okay, yes.
Okay, well, good.
But they don't stay in the building very long.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's all I have.
Jean?
Yeah.
Just a follow-up on the health concerns. Is there any research to show that like long-term exposure, even if it's like for short bits, over time can cause health issues? Or is it more like an immediate sort of irritation kind of reaction to?
Well, I think it's an immediate thing,
Uh-huh.
but you definitely don't want to be in there 8 hours or
Yeah,
6 hours.
yeah.
And it's not very frequent. I mean, these are large tanks. These are like 15 feet high, 12
Uh-huh.
feet diameter, big tanks. And so we don't fill them up very often.
Okay,
And so maybe twice a year we
okay.
do that, and
Okay.
that's when the issue comes.
So it's very limited, but it's an issue when it happens?
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah,
an issue
okay.
when it happens. I don't know the air amount, the parts per million in the air.
Uh-huh.
We don't know that, but we do know that you can't
don't wanna
stay in
be
there.
Uh-huh, okay. And
Hey.
would respirators, like breathing systems, help at all in a situation like that, or?
Probably. The best way would be like a CBA system, an enclosed gas
yeah.
bottle, something, but at this time, I don't know, you have to ask the superintendent.
Well, and maybe we'll get the ventilation installed before the next round of filling these tanks, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Hey, Dan, this is
Oh, there
Tom
you are.
Axon,
How you doing,
operations.
Tom?
Hey, I can chime in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, currently we just use the doors we open the doors when we're filling the tanks. This would just be a much better solution to that.
So the problem's isolated to this time that we fill the tank and there's off-gassing or something taking place from the filling up that filling the void and the void. Yeah, so this is like a systems issue. Yeah, so doing the ventilation is a way to address that issue, but the issue's still there. I'm just wondering from a process standpoint if there's anything else that we could do, or if this is the standard practice that people do.
This is pretty much a standard. I'll let Tom answer that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of what we can do. That's something that I could ask Tim Myers, the maintenance coordinator, if he has any suggestions, but I don't think there's any way around it other than the ventilation.
Excuse me, what?
Part of the initial analysis was we looked at other ways. You need to
Oh.
say it, I'm not on a microphone.
Yeah.
But part of the previous analysis was we looked at other ways.
Yeah, we have looked at several different methods of doing this, and there really wasn't a good solution for this, except, just ventilate the room,
And how often does this occur? How often do we have to fill these tanks?
About twice a year.
Twice a year. So as long as we time it, so it's not in the middle of winter right now, we can open those doors as well, right?
Yes, right,
All right.
right.
Okay. Well, any other questions? Right, do we have a motion for approval of the new, this approval of agreement?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
And next up, we have a request for approval of an agreement with Black and Veatch for water alternate source study, not to exceed $83,350. Brad Schroeder.
Hi, Brad Schrader, CBU Engineering. This really came out of we did a risk and resilience study, and we looked at all of our potential risk areas, and we have a great water source. Lake Monroe is a wonderful water source. It's going to last a long time. But one of the risk areas we have is if something were to damage the plant for some period of time, then we lose our entire water source. So what we're looking at here is this is a study with Black and Veatch, who did a similar study for us before we did the last plant expansion, where they looked at alternatives for expansion. So they looked at several alternatives, and we're going to have them look at some of these again, and then also some new alternatives, really for a backup supply that wouldn't back up the entire capacity of the plant, but could provide enough water to get us through some kind of an emergency. So for example, a groundwater source, which they looked at previously, maybe a small plant that we could quickly enable at one of the two other reservoirs. Just really, in general, what can be done? And they're going to kind of look at it with a new eye toward new technology and what can be done. So it's really long-term planning, and it kind of gets us thinking way ahead as far as how we can be more resilient with our water supply and get over an emergency. So their study is for $83,350, and this is just to study all the alternatives, come up with some cost opinions. So a lot of this is going to be them doing cost opinions on these, which takes a bit of preliminary engineering to do that work. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have with this.
Right direction for us to be. When we closed Griffey years ago, at that time we had two sources, as you know, and now we've only got one. We've done a lot to help us with, additional lines and so on to help us in that single point of failure. It's not quite as the way it used to be, but this is a good direction for us to head looking toward the future.
Good,
I think.
thank you.
So the Griffey, 2 studies ago, it was stated that the Griffey was still a viable backup water supply. And then this last study said it's not a viable supply. And so I'll be interested to see what this study says about
Yeah, and
Griffey.
it isn't viable because the storage is so low, I believe, and you can't get much out of it. But if you look at it as just we want to get what we can, then maybe. And this study may say, yeah, even still not. And even combining that with lemon, we can just do something to even bring that one into play. So it's one of multiple ones. But
And the groundwater going all the way up to the Whitewater Plain was deemed like exceedingly expensive. And
Yeah.
so I'll be very interested to
Yeah, we've been
what
through these,
different,
but-
if anything, they say.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's worthwhile to update them and compare them, and
So
because we
they'll
still
be-
have the same issue.
They'll be considering the last study and
Absolutely. That's kind of why
utilizing that as a
we're
resource.
bringing Black and Beach into this, because they did it and they have the information and they know it. So a lot of the effort is updating that study and then potentially, other sources, another plant on Monroe or whatever. They know our system and they've done these before. So, yeah, we're hoping not to reinvent the wheel on all these studies again, fundamentally more just as anything changed and, our view of things is it different based on the resiliency and stuff.
And do we get a price break, given that this is a follow-up and they can, continue the
Yeah,
research that they've been doing?
yeah, their existing knowledge is priced into their fee, yeah. I mean, because it's all estimated by how much work they're gonna have to do to perform the work. I mean, this is considerably, actually, starting from zero, a significant amount of work, if it was to be from zero. So, yeah, I think that's built into their
So
fee.
presumably we go to a different company, it costs a lot more.
I would believe so, yeah, because they have to start from fresh on everything, yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
I
Yeah,
was just
Megan.
wondering when your last study was completed.
So it was in, I believe, 2005 when we did a 20-year plan on the plant, and then they looked at all these different alternatives, and then that was kind of what fed into the plant expansion. That was, at that time, done also we needed to expand our water supply and build resiliency. So one of the things that came out of that was an extra water tank and an extra water line, which certainly helped our resiliency in that respect. So they addressed some of it there, but we think it's useful to just look again, just to be up to date. It's about that time anyways. It's been quite a while since we've looked at it.
Thank you.
Amanda?
You said 2005?
I believe so, unless I have my
That
date
is
wrong.
prior to many of us being on the board. Is there any chance that in advance of this, that we might be able to see what that report said all those years ago?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
we
even just a summary
we have
of
it.
this
What I
would
can
be
do is
nice.
I can pull out a summary and those sections of this report that Jeff is talking about that talk about some of these areas that we looked at the first time.
That would be great.
Yeah,
Just for
no.
us to at least have in advance, so that we can get up to speed
Clearly,
before the results of the study come back.
Yeah, no, clearly. And that kind of speaks to the length of the planning effort. This planning was done, and then they just started getting into justifying a plant, and the expansion actually happened in 2013. So this is long process, long-range planning stuff.
Great.
But yeah, definitely can provide that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah, Kirk?
I think Jim and I could probably remember when we voted on the Griffey plant closure, when we were on the council, it was about 94, 95. Jim, if I'm not mistaken, way back then, we were only able to draw about 15% of our daily consumption off of Griffey. It was so low that's why it wasn't really worth keeping it going. So this is a challenge for us. If you look back in our history of this community, even the university, we were not able to grow like we wanted to until the 60s when Monroe came online. And that's why this type of thing and the current emphasis on taking a look at the whole watershed with the different meetings coming up in the next couple of months, that's really important for us for the future. Because of our topography, we're blessed to have we're blessed to have Monroe, but we had to do something else. This is going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Can I jump in and just a couple of comments reinforcing what Brad said? The previous time this was done, it was in the context of making a decision about what to do with Monroe. At this point, we're asking a different question, and that is, what do we do in case we have a major disruption of Monroe, either because of something happening in the lake or because of something happening at the plant. Right now, we really, we don't have a great response plan for a system failure, a major system failure. Tornado hits the water plant. It's going to be a difficult situation for us. So the idea here is to look at a water supply that can keep us going for a period of time while we're recovering from an outage. So when you look at Griffey and Lemon together, like you said, back in 94, 95, we weren't getting that much water from over there. But since then, Griffey's been dredged since then. And if you're looking at the amount of water you could get from those two lakes every day forever, that's going to be a low number. But what if you only needed to do it for 30 days? Or what if you only needed to do it for 60 days? You could get more water out for a shorter period of time on a daily basis. So the question really is, at this point, it's both to look at that long-term issue of Lake Monroe is not going to last forever, and we may want to have an extra resource, or at least a plan for an extra resource in our long-term plans. But the shorter term or intermediate term question is, what do we do if we have an outage at Monroe for a short period of time? And that's really what we're trying to get at here.
Jim? Thanks, Vic.
To the need for a water source, I saw in the newspaper last week that I never remember the name of the group. Let's kind of do what we can to save Lake Monroe. They're having a meeting or a series of meetings that are coming up. And, do we have information about those meetings and what the content might be, Vic?
We've been in conversations with the Friends of Lake Monroe and the Lake Monroe Water Fund throughout that entire 319 grant process. There's actually a panel discussion happening on June 3rd down at the Point. I'm actually on the panel and I'll be talking as questions come up. I'll be able to respond directly to water supply issues and treatment issues that may be happening.
Greg, can you report back on that at our next meeting?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about the approval agreement for the water alternate source study? Do you have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Next up, we still have Brad Schrader for a request for approval of an agreement with Energy Power Partners for Resource Recovery Program Feasibility Study. Oh, Vic is.
Actually, I'm going to take this one. Yes.
Okay.
This is the study for a possible waste-to-energy facility that would be presumably located at the Blucher Pool plant. As you know, we did a study, an in-house study a couple of years ago to look at the prospect for anaerobic digestion at the Dillman plant. And that proved out to be far too expensive for us to take on. But the city and the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, hang on just a moment. Got crazy dogs barking across the street. We are partnering with the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District to do this study. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, you approved a memorandum of understanding with the Solid Waste Management District. We are splitting the cost of this study between us. And the purpose is to look at an anaerobic facility that would do basically any kind of compostable or digestible organic waste. This could be food waste from partners such as grease from the grease interceptors. It could be food waste from IU or other institutional partners. It could be grease that was hauled in from out of town. It could be the organic waste from the wastewater plant, et cetera. So the purpose of the study is to look at the potential for such a facility in terms of how much energy it could generate and what kind of tipping fees would be charged or required to maintain it. The possibility of being able to do land application of the composted waste from the facility is also part of the study. It's pretty comprehensive look at what such a facility might mean for Bloomington and Monroe County, and also the business models that exist for making something like this happen. So overall, the purpose of the study is to look at all of these different components of such a system so that we all can sit down and talk about what is the future for waste to energy type of facility here in Bloomington and Monroe County.
Thanks, Vic. Any questions? Jim?
Vic, the city talks on occasion about including compostable materials in its collection, and that would be part of this?
That's right. If we had any kind of compostable materials coming in as part of the waste stream that could be separated, it could go to a facility like this.
So that sounds like a good reason for them doing it.
Yes, it's one of the features of a program like this.
Amanda?
I just have a question in terms of on the cover sheet, we usually have the bottom 3 items filled out. We're just kind of the technical details of having the W-9, the affirmative action, and procurement summary completed. I just want to make sure this vendor has all of those completed.
I think that's a good Chris Wheeler question.
Yeah, I'm looking at the memo that goes with, that apparently went into the packet, and that was a memo that did not get completed. The memo that was circulated for approval with the controller in the mayor's office and then eventually brought down to CBU was filled out, completed, and had all of those boxes checked. So I can tell you that the vendor has complied and the city has complied with procurement policy and law.
Please remind me, Chris, is the $129,220, is that half of the study, or is it the full cost and we're reimbursed for half? I don't remember. If you can speak to that, Chris or Vic, please.
Yeah, let me pull that back up again. I believe that's the full amount, but I'd have to look at the memo again.
The full amount and
to see.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, if you have a second, I'll pull up the MOU again.
We want to make sure, that's what I remember, and I just want to make sure we're getting reimbursed for half. And I'm happy that Monroe County Solid Waste Management District is partnering with us on this study.
So the cost of the actual project with Energy Power is $129,220, and the MOU it provides for 50% payment by the county on the project.
Okay, so we'll be reimbursed by the county at some point, at some point during the study or when it's complete.
Yeah, I can pull up the MOU to see.
That's okay.
I believe what we do is, all we're going to do is invoice the county. They're going to reimburse us.
Okay.
So once we're at the point where we pay the contractor, we will then turn around and invoice for reimbursement, because it is a reimbursement. Those were reimbursement provisions in the MOU.
Thank you. Other questions about the approval agreement? And, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Excellent. Next up, we have Old business from the board. Old business from staff.
There's none.
New business from the board. New business from staff.
There's none.
Have we had any subcommittees since our last meeting?
No.
Subcommittee meetings, no, okay. Staff reports.
Just one comment I'd like to make regarding the beginning of the budget process. We will be starting the process of assembling our budget goals for the 2023 budget. That process is underway. We will be submitting our draft budget memo to the mayor's office on June 3rd. So we have begun that process. Another item is that we are moving ahead with selling the bonds for the waterworks projects. We had our rating call with Standard & Poor's a couple of weeks ago. They have reaffirmed our A rating and upgraded the outlook from negative to stable. So we're happy about that, and we're ready to move ahead on those projects as soon as the bonds are sold.
Excellent. Jim?
Vic, at the last meeting, you gave a report on the wastewater COVID test. I think
Yes.
you said they're done every Thursday. Could we have the latest report?
The latest ones, we take the samples on Monday. The results typically come back on Wednesday or Thursday. Last week's samples came back with 10 gene copies per 100 milliliters at the Dillman plant and 4,100 at the Blucher Pool plant. The previous week, it had been 3,800 at Dillman and 240 at Blucher Pool. What we're seeing, I think, is a lot of uncertainty in the numbers. Sometimes just the sampling will give us a non-detect or close to non-detect, even if there is material in the sample. We are talking with other agencies about possibly joining in to do an additional sample to increase the sampling frequency to twice a week. And up to now, we haven't gotten a straight answer on that yet, but we're still working on it.
I didn't catch the actual number, so was that up or down from the previous week or indeterminate?
It was actually both. It was up
Right, one
at
was-
Blucher Pool and down at Dillman.
That's what I thought I heard.
So I would say it's probably, because of the magnitude of the changes, my guess is it's probably a noise in the signal. So we're probably, my guess is we're probably hovering along at this point. Mr. Wheeler has his hand up.
Just waiting my turn, Vic. It doesn't have to do with what you're talking about. I just wanted to get back with Jeff on his MOU question. So I'll wait my turn.
Yes, Kirk?
Jim, I'll just kind of amplify that a bit. Blucher Pool was at 9,200 on May the 2nd, and then 240 on May the 9th, and then it bounced back up to 3,700 this last week. So there's a lot of movement in there, but obviously when you've got a 9,200 number, we were seeing a lot of COVID in Bloomington, that sampling that occurred on May the 2nd. So, but overall, it looks like it's decreasing, and that's the assumption you can make. It's decreased over the past couple of weeks from that high point.
Yeah, certainly the Blucher Pool numbers have been falling. I think some of that may be just because the population of that basin is going down a lot with IU closing and the students going home. But yeah, I think it's probably safe to say the Blucher Pool number has come down. I think that the 240 was probably an outlier, but if at some point we hope to have a more frequent sampling program.
Other questions about the COVID testing? Okay, anything else from your end, Vic?
No, thank you.
Okay, Chris?
Thank you. Again, Chris Wheeler, City Legal, and Jeff, I did review the MOU, and we did provide specifically in the MOU the not to exceed amount of the 129,220, which is the amount of the contract that you approved this afternoon or this evening. And of that 129,220, then the county will be providing a 50% contribution to CBU as a reimbursement to CBU. I sent a copy of the MOU to your inbox for your review and FYI.
Thank you again, Chris. Anything, well, I guess that wraps up staff reports. Any petitions and communications from anyone? All right, we just need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.